Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to our RED program 122 review meeting. We have some notes. Um, there was so much information in that program. So much. I think it was like one of the heaviest of the year. There was uh, a load of updates, like a lot. Even Ale said that she thought about giving it like more slowly, but then she decided to just, put it out all together, so that we had more time to digest it before the Ring of Fire and not have it as close to the Ring of Fire. So I think that's why there was so much. But it was great. That diagram of the Rings of Fire, wow, amazing. And of course, the completion of the periodic table, which is absolutely amazing. And like she said, there is not much understanding going around right now. There is more reasoning, right? Trying to follow the reasoning of why things are being structured the way they are. And just being like that. I mean, I think it's just quite amazing that we are present while this is happening. Like the formation of each of these lanes and going one by one, day by day, and lap by lap, which is also just when I saw the periodic table in its completed and how it converged with the 22 laps. I was just like, what is like I would have never imagined, like when this development started, when Alejandra cloned the seventh lane and all. I thought that was just it. But then it continued, and then we have 22 laps on the table. We have 22 laps on the table. It's just incredible, really. Um, so yeah, the newest parts, which are seventh, eighth, ninth level, and then -1 and -2, there is not much to explain rather than what was explained on the program, because it's basically 2 weeks old. So, but we're gonna look. I'm gonna share the document with everybody's notes. So I like this format because this way I can see everybody's reasoning. So this up here is Girge, so we're gonna leave that, see if she comes. If not, we'll just leave it.
She's answering my message. I just apped her where she is, but her message took for a while already. So she will answer if she's coming or not. Yeah, what I did this time was just my question, and then I make a little bit a summary till the next question.
It was great. So okay, so first question, level 9, regarding the content of this container. Do you mean content of level 9, or what do you mean?
No, in general, the word content and the container are used, and the meaning that was new for me because it was new for me in ALA in Red 122. I was a little bit stoeien to what is exactly the content, what is exactly the container in general in the logic in the LCG.
Okay.
And so I was, maybe it's just the word, the definition of the word. It's a little bit confusing for me because the content and the container, of course, I understand these words, but in the LGG, it has another definition. It has another meaning. And and that was confusing me.
Okay. When we talk about container, we're always talking about structure. The structure, the frames, the entorno. Yes. And the structures will always be technical. Now, when we talk about container, it is whatever, because in the younger era of the solar consciousness, where Sol was attempting to improve the quality of its codification, and when it barely had structures, these structures weren't as robust, and the structures lacked content. It was just a structural. It was just structural, right? So I think Ali explained this. We're linearizing something to help our brains understand. Okay, so we must understand that every time we make a linear explanation, always keeping in mind that these things are not linear. Okay, so the call for creators of content to come and inhabit those containers. There was that. Okay, there was that at some point in the solar progression. Now, these creators of content came from all over
Mhm.
and did whatever inside the container because that's just what that era was about or that stage was about. Mm, yeah. So the thing is that the solar code is now progressing and it's now evolving. And the contracts with these content creators is kind of coming to an end in a way. It is like, okay, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
um, but now we need contents that are also interested in the container because in the past the contents that we had in the past were not necessarily interested in the containers. Okay, they were just interested in having an experience and they didn't really care if it was good or bad, right? So if we want to keep it really simple, container is related to frame, is related to structure, is related to uh, the box that allows this experience to be, that allows our physical experience to exist, to manifest, that provides what we need to exist inside there. Now, the creation of meaning, it will always be relative to that specific entorno, right? Because you remember when Ale said that the memories are tied to this entorno. So if we remove ourselves from this entorno, our memories we stay here because if we take them out of this entorno, then they're not gonna make sense anymore. Creation of meaning in relation to the frames or to the container. Okay. Now, that meaning or that sense, because that the word meaning doesn't translate the way I like it.
Mm.
It doesn't feel correct. Mm, but the other word we could use would be sense, like sense of let me see if I can find a better word. Mm, to the word let's see what I can find.
What comes to mind is like a coherency.
It's because coherency is very relative to the SE quadrant.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, so you know it.
It's bigger than that.
Yeah, it is. It is like something more specific. We could say sense or meaning. That is
I
like the
think meaning is a very beautiful word, Denise, but we have to understand the language, the definition of the LGG about container, about the content. I understand it now. I have to practice the new definition because I had another definition.
and
And
remember, like the social definitions that we have will never like
no,
very rarely align
and
to
that's sometimes an error in the because the
Association becomes
Yeah.
very automatic.
Yeah. So what I did, Denise,
Yeah.
with the translation, I had the English translation directly from Ale, and I had your translation.
Mhm.
So I was doing both things, so it was very intensive, but
Yes.
your
It's good.
English was correct, was excellent.
Yeah, I try to make it so. I work very hard for that, to make it as clear and as accurate as possible. And you know what? Changing a little bit the subject. The thing with I wanted to talk about this in the cycle meeting. I just forgot about it. Association and connection. We confuse these two. And I wanted to talk about it because I recently myself became aware of that, and in the ways that I was confusing association with connection, because the association is based in my memories, in the things that I have memorized and that I have processed and that I have biologized. Hi, Kirche. Good to see you. Mm.
Mhm.
While connection doesn't use the memory. Okay, so it's very different. Associate.
Hi,
And
hi,
it's
sorry. Hi,
Don't
Denise,
worry.
everybody.
Hello,
Sorry.
hello. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Denise, can you maybe
oh,
repeat your last sentence?
Yeah.
Association and connection.
Yes.
So association is very much based on memories, and it happens more automatically, right? And it is very easy to confuse association with connection. Connection is something that happens in the right? It happens more online, and it connects things that are not necessarily associated to each other. So the way to tell these two apart is, if it's based on the memory, it's association. If it's not based on memory, it's a connection between two things. So we can leave that there, and then within ourselves we can start to work on that concept, okay, and see how much we do that, because like I said, I recently found inside me how I would confuse and associate things, and thinking that there was a connection. And a connection is something that's alive, right? When two things connect, it's like something lights on. When there's an association, it's just okay, this and this, blah.
Okay,
Different.
so the association, Denise, is on the row and the connection is on the re.
Yes.
And about the memories we talked about with David the last time when he was doing the session about library and
Librarian and programmer.
yes, and with the memory, dus the library and the memory, and I remember the 6, that's the 3 or 4, Ale in red. Alejandra talked about this memory, how important that is now in this time. The number 6, is that also connected with the association, Denise?
Well, what you just did there, that was an association. But
Okay.
it doesn't mean that it's bad, or that one thing is better than the other. It's just important that we identify it, right? So when we're talking about the librarian, we're talking about the librarian. Then when we're talking about memory, okay. But then we should allow the structure to do the connections. We associate, right? Okay, but placing the observer and being like, okay, I'm associating this with this. Okay, I'm associating it. But the connection is done by the structure. When it brings all things together, it creates a connection, and it lights up a consciousness and awareness inside the receiver, and be like, oh, that's a connection. See?
Is association something also like interpretation?
No, because an interpretation is it's something that's created. I mean, an interpretation is something that also can happen quite automatically. And for a lot of people, it just happens. Like their interpreter is not active, right? So the interpretation is based on the memories. So yes, the memory is, of course, connected to many different things. Like the librarian, it is connected to an interpretation, like a closed interpretation based on the past. I mean, there's many variables, right? There is no generic answer because it's going to depend on each person. Different configuration. So I'm going to go back to the notes because there's a lot to go through. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to start with Girges because you gave us a lot of material. Okay. And I made some notes. And I was saying that probably there is a lot of material lost in the translation. And this is the reason why we do the meeting, so that we can clarify that, okay? So the notes that I did was just because I thought the things that I thought that were lost in translation, okay? So here you wrote down this. We are a digital active of consciousness of a different scale that perceives us, but we don't perceive them. Now, if we only this is what is really important about LGC. If we take things out of context, the meaning of it can be misunderstood. See, if we use this sentence on its own, it says, we are a digital active of consciousness of a different scale that perceives us. If we take that out of context, now there's a missing context to that sentence. I would add, that's why I wrote these little stars, right? Because there's a missing context there. I would say, if you are not particularly defined, if you don't have an appetite for space-temporal formation, then you're a digital active of consciousness of a different scale. You see? So it is very important that in LGC we provide the correct context for the concepts, because if we take them out of context, or if we take just a little piece here and there, it may lose the coherency of the concept we're trying to form. And for us, at an anatomic level, the creation of concepts, it's the most important thing there is. Okay, so it is very important that our concepts are as impeccably created as can be. Okay, so here what's missing is, if we're not particularly defined and if we don't have an appetite for that, then we will be a digital active of consciousnesses of different scales, right? Different scales that we ourselves have not particularly developed. Okay, so that's with that one. So, and I separated so that we could go over every detail, because every detail is important, right? Because here, if I have an interpretation or a creation of a concept here in the anatomic, and then I go to sleep and I make a transfer to the subatomic aspect, the subatomic takes it like that. And then what's going to happen is that the codification is not going to be as synchronized, because there are little tiny, bugs in the construction of the concept. So it is very important that we focus on the clear construction of the concepts, that the concepts are as transparent as possible, right? That's what we're doing here. Okay, so yes, if our materialization is greater, then it means that other observers that are at other levels of materialization, well, yeah, they're going to be observing us. But here in this level of materialization, there's going to be a challenge, there's going to be error, there's going to be faults. Like, we're going to be dealing with so many variables from the entorno and working towards our evolution, when there's going to be other observers that, fine, like they're not interested in evolution, they just want to be observers, and that's fine, right? So no problem with that. So everything that gains a greater gravitational status is observed. Okay. So anything that has lesser gravitational status is an observer because it's closer to the primary unfoldment. We are all the time observed by the immaterial universe, which is correct. Okay. So here's the question. More about the subatomic instance. We're gonna change this for instance, okay? It's more accurate. So, subatomic instance, we talk about it all the time. Do you remember this diagram that has the subatomic, atomic, molecular, and anatomic? Okay, that is the order of physicality, right? Here in the anatomic, we're going to keep it short because we could talk a lot about the subatomic instance, but I'm going to try to keep it short so that we can go through all the notes. When we are here in the anatomic, because the way the matrix has been configured, we have acquired an identity with the material, right? So in the general perception in society, identity is very firm in existence in the anatomic, right? When in reality, our actual origin, like our original origin, is the subatomic instance. What is the subatomic instance? Subatomic particle field, right? Hydrogen, a hydrogen, subatomic. What is a subatomic particle? It is the smallest form of matter that there is, right? And then we have the string theory, which is, it's a theory. It cannot be proved, of course, because we just can't go that small. But after the subatomic, I don't think that we can go further than that without space-temporal consciousness. We need space-temporal consciousness to comprehend further than that, and to add consciousness to what doesn't have consciousness. It's just a development of the raw and a development of the mind. Okay, so the subatomic instance, subatomic particle field, right? It's the origin of everything. It is the one that finances existence. Okay, and it is in line with the primary source. Okay, so we're gonna keep it like that. We're gonna keep the definition of that concept short. Is that good enough for you? Yeah? Okay. We talk about it all the time. And of course, we're like the development of the understanding of this is all about LGC. That's what it's all about. Like when we talk about particular definition, we're talking about consciousness at a subatomic scale. When we talk about like an origin, we're talking about subatomic. When we're talking about solar, we're talking about subatomic. When we're talking, the we could say the origin. But there is no time. There's no present, no past, no future. Okay? So yeah. Which is a part of the material universe. I don't know. I think this is I'm gonna need more context. I don't know. Okay. So this one I needed a little more explanation. If you could, please.
Yes. For me, I want to understand it with the entorno.
Mm-hmm. Like the belonging to the entorno.
Yeah.
Okay, taking a belonging with the entorno means that very deep in us, in our particular, in our particular aspect,
Mm-hmm.
there is an appetite for evolution,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we are inside an entorno that is providing that evolution, right? And one of the requirements of that entorno is take an identity with the entorno and work towards the improvement of it. That is like, okay, because if not, these temporal spatial consciousnesses, they don't care what entorno they are in. They just want the experience. It doesn't
Mm.
matter where or when, like, it doesn't really, they don't care. They just want to have an experience. The thing is that there is a point where if I'm a subatomic entity that just wants to have an experience, but I don't have any interest in developing myself at other scales, like understanding the different scales of existence. I just want to appear in the anatomic, right? And I don't care about the rest. Like, just give me an experience. It doesn't matter. There is a risk there of being stuck inside that entorno in which I'm gonna be projected, because I'm not gonna, that's when Ale says, I'm gonna become a currency, digital currency.
Mm.
So that is like the importance of assuming a belonging to
Mm.
this entorno and knowing why this entorno specifically and this time of this entorno specifically, because this time is the one that's providing these evolutionary possibilities, right? But of course, the requirements are higher. The like there's just the stakes are higher, and a lot of particles that were just here for fun, once that these regulations start to like be into execution, like the administration of the solar native code enter into execution, then a lot of these particles are going to be like, okay, bye-bye, because they're just not going to be interested in, learning about space-temporal structures. So like that is the importance of assuming a belonging with the entorno. Here you said, we have a lot of space in our bodies, in our cells, that it's not material. To connect
Yes.
with the space in our material bodies is gaining more status, more observing. Okay, so here I detect another concept error,
Mm.
because the observation of like the observer does not need matter, like it doesn't need existence. Okay, this whole sentence is very much constructed from the anatomic perspective. It's a very anatomic sentence, which is not wrong. We just have to like be like, okay, this is an anatomic sentence, okay?
Yeah.
All we're learning is to identify where we are looking from and identify the different scales, which is like the most important thing that we're learning here, because we want to, since we want to define ourselves particularly speaking, then we need to know and differentiate every scale, right? So this particular sentence is very anatomic because it says, to connect with this space in our material bodies is gaining more status, because not necessarily. When Ale defined evolution as acquiring more gravity,
Mm-hmm.
to evolve is to densify, right? Because
Okay.
physicality, it is not very easy to achieve, like to achieve and sustain and maintain and create physical matter. Like that is why the matrix has these tricks to make us believe that the most common thing in the universe is the most special thing in the universe, when it's in reverse, when materiality is the most precious thing in the universe, because the most we have is antimatter and abstraction and observers, and these other levels of the universe, that is like the most abundant. But uh, gaining gravitational status, it is not as easy to do. So to evolve is to densify. See how that
Mm-hmm.
aligns with the construction of 789 of the periodic table? That is a similarity to what it would be to densify, right? Now, if we're talking about our particularity, what would it mean to densify? It would mean that we are understand, like, remember the 57, the gravitational logic? 5-7, the interpreter, right? So if we are creating these concepts, space-temporal concepts, we are forming ourselves, we're defining ourselves particularly through the creation of the concepts. This is helping us densify. This is helping us densify because our perception of things, our understanding, like our cosmovision of reality, is not based on these paradigms of where abstraction is our origin, and our divine origin, and these abstract ideas. You see how that removes gravity from us instead of acquiring and creating a new gravitational logic according to the gravitational status in which we exist.
Okay.
So creating a new sorry about that. Creating a new interpreter that's according to the structure. That's what's gonna help us densify, you see? And not having these symbolic and ethereal interpretations of reality. Okay, we can stop at that. We can stop there.
Actually, just a question on that. It's creating a new interpreter or a new interpretation?
Both. The interpretation is something that's gonna happen continuously, like the creation of, we're interpreting all the time.
Yes.
All the time. It's happening all the time. The interpreter is something, it is like a function in our psychic structure. So our interpreter will depend on the scope, on the particular scope of the particular identity. So my interpreter, of course, it's amplifiable. My interpreter is amplifiable if I have an appetite for evolution. If I don't have an appetite for evolution, then my interpreter will not be amplifiable, and my appetite will be to return to antimatter, because my time for just being down here, having an experience and enjoying life, it's over. The credit for that is over. So I am probably just returning. If there's a particle that has an appetite, okay, no, I want to evolve. Like I think it's interesting. This particular evolution is interesting. I don't want to go back to the source. Okay, then that enables a possibility of expansion of the interpreter. The interpreter is going to have it's gonna be renewing the references, right? Which has to do with the structures, which has to do with the concepts that it has created. And based on that, it's going to create new interpretations, more ample interpretations.
Yeah.
Okay. So, to be more conscious observer, again, the observer is, it is aligned to the consciousness, is related to the consciousness, the observer, right? So, my observer is gonna depend on my consciousness, which is a similar, it's gonna be a similar process that I have just explained with the interpreter. Of course, the consciousness is expandable, but it's gonna depend on the scope of the particularity. It doesn't depend on the body at all. It depends on the construction of concepts and the reception of signals. Reception of signals, construction of concepts, interpretation of those signals, communication of those signals. But remember, this is something that Ale has been trying to clarify for a long time, and it's very easy for us to actually grasp. At an anatomic level, there is no action to be made. All of these things that we are describe, well, Ale is describing, and we are trying to continue to describe to ourselves and comprehend, are not done at an anatomic level. Most of these actions are done at a subatomic level, at a solar level. Okay. The only thing we do here is construct concepts. That's it. Reasoning, observing, and constructing concepts. That's it. There is no other action to be made. We take all those reasonings, we take those concepts, we take them to bed at night, and then that's it. When we go to bed, we are no longer people. We die. Ale is saying now that dying at night is now equivalent to what it before was to die. I said die. Going to sleep, sorry, sleeping at night is now equivalent to what before it was to die. We don't have to die anymore to do what people needed to do to reconfigure something. They needed to die. Now we like, if we do this right, if we form ourselves properly, space temporally speaking, then probably we're going to learn to do this while we're sleeping and not have to die to do it. It makes me nervous to say it, but this is what Ale describes. Okay, so the observer does not depend at all. The consciousness does not depend at all from the body. Okay, this is important too. Okay, subatomic scale has no limits, no conditions, right? Occurrences are limitless because it's in line to the source. Okay. But again, no evolution condition. There is no requirement for evolution. Evolution has to be a decision. There has to be like a will. No one can force you to evolve. Okay, so thinking in evolution conditions is limiting ourselves because it's inherited with the source. So if I understand this correctly, your reasoning, Jorge, is that if I understand correctly, if we are reasoning something like this, it means that we have an appetite for evolution.
Mhm.
Yeah, because if not, the limits would be like, oh no, well, then like there would be no appetite for evolution, so there would be, of course, limits, which would be death. Okay, I have to die because, that's just the way life is, and these old paradigms. Okay, so everything will be financing whatever wants to evolve and whatever wants to improve. There's going to be a financiation for that, always. So if there's an order there, there's going to be no problem. There's going to be a synchronicity. And another thing that is very different, we're not talking about perfection, we're talking about synchronicity. Okay, so perfection can never be because perfection doesn't exist. So to attempt to achieve perfection is wanting to go back to the source, wanting to not evolve. So synchronicity is different. Synchronicity means that I am working with the structure, I have acquired an identity with the entorno, I'm working with the solar native code, and all the gravitational documents are synchronizing. So me and my gravitational document synchronizes with other gravitational documents out there in the SE quadrant, right? So synchronicity happens. But I understand the mechanism, so it's not magical. It's like, oh my God. I mean, of course, it never ceases to amaze, but you have an idea of why the synchronicity happens. Okay. Secondary unfoldment. We talked about this in the cycle meeting, right? We talked a lot about the secondary unfoldment recently. Primary unfoldment, that's the source of credit, okay? Secondary unfoldment, it is when there's a particle that it's just in the source, like it's one with the source, right? But that particle wants to create something of its own. So the secondary unfoldment, remember, these are all reasonings that we're trying to understand something that is not linear, okay? So there's always going to be a margin of error. So a particle wants to experience something of its own. So what it does, there's a creation of a parallel instance, parallel to the primary, which is nothing, everything, and something at the same level. There's a creation of a secondary instance where there is a codification that generates a material experience. So the world of the somethings is the secondary unfoldment. A universe, right? A universe is a creation, it is a collective creation of particles. Something Alice says always too is that something like our body is not something that is singular. It is a collective because there are many different things happening all at once. It is not a singular thing. So that is why it is very important to have an independence with the body. Like not have a solid identity and very attached to my body, because that's not going to work well for us now that we're moving towards more into the 500 apparatuses. It is important that we have our mind differentiated from our body and our consciousness differentiated from our body. Okay? Because the body it responds to gravitational documents, to our past information, to what's going on online. Like there's a direct connection with the structure. Our bodies are doing things that we're not necessarily aware of. Okay, so recently what Alice said, do not try to biodecode every single thing that happens to your body, because you are not helping. Like there's probably just something trying to get through and you're not letting it. It has nothing to do with me. If I don't have an immediate argument of what's happening to me, like, oh, I hit my head really hard and now my head hurts, that's an immediate argument, right? That makes sense. But if I wake up at night and there's nothing happening, my life is at peace, and there's nothing going on, and I just feel weird, and I'm trying to, what's going on? Maybe it's my past, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's that. There, we are blocking the signal. Okay? So it is important that we just allow the signal to go where it needs to go. Contain the container. To contain the container is not equal to contain me. Because if I biodecode whatever is happening to me, I'm containing myself, but I'm not containing the container. I'm not helping the container contain. Okay? So not everything that goes through my body has to do with me. This is very important that we understand, because we are receivers. Okay. So secondary unfoldment, the world of the somethings. Particles that want to create something separate from the primary, from the source. They want to create something of their own. Okay? Which is where evolution is a requirement. The secondary unfoldment, where evolution is a requirement, where there is a process for everything, where we have time structures, where we have materialization, we have experiences, we have all kinds of things in the secondary unfoldment. Okay, so there's a separation. Primary unfoldment, secondary unfoldment, separation from the source. Voluntary separation from the source. Because no one's going to force me to leave my source, my house, which is nothingness. No one's going to force me. I can stay there for all eternity. It doesn't matter. But there is this other option where you want to jump into the gravitational hole, to have a gravitational experience, to have a challenge, something that challenges me to particularly evolve. Because if in my house, there is no challenge there, and I can be there comfortably, observing all the other particles that are gravitationally existing. Okay. Okay, so that is really cool. I thought that was amazing. The structure of the 4 rings of fire, right? And the support of the 366th day of the apparatus as support to all of that, right? Really important. Now she shifts the logic. You know, we are accustomed in calendaria to assume, assimilate this desafía and decide, right? But she was like, I cannot ask a subatomic particle to assume anything because there's nothing to assume because it doesn't exist yet. So what are we gonna add? Like, this is a new cosmovision or paradigm for all the new particles. There is an offer for a transparent structure now, a safer structure for better particles, more pure particles of the universe. And the premise is, if you decide to assume an existence, then you will assimilate the challenge, right? If you assume a gravitational existence, then you have to assimilate that there's going to be a constant challenge, because to exist is to be in constant challenge, because that's what we need to grow. Okay, but if we are not very interested in the challenge, it's like, oh, okay, I'll just I'll just be the same particle for all eternity, or not. Maybe if I see a structure that is attractive to me, I'm like, oh, maybe I like that looks interesting. Like the market for the hydrogens of the universe, you know, like Ale says. Oh, like I want to invest my credit in that.
The decision's coming first.
Exactly. But not, but us, for us that we are already existing, we have to assume that we're existing first.
And
So
I
it's
bet you it's where the -1 and -2 rows come in.
the -1 and -2 rows have to do with the antimatter and the codification outside of existence of the solar native code.
Okay, didn't quite get it, but that's off topic.
We drifted a little bit, but we'll come back. Okay. So crossing the barrier, right? Crossing the and that barrier would be the level one of the table, which is the connection between primary and secondary. Okay. Okay. Those 13 spaces to achieve a codification. And this is something I said, okay. Every apparatus, because the 22 laps of calendaria align perfectly with the table, then we're not only going to go through calendaria. Next year, we're going to go also, like, we're going to be recreating the periodic table's sense or meaning constantly. Which is like a lot, because, you know, every apparatus an apparatus is the maximum metric, like the maximum for creation of meaning, and a day would be the smallest, right? So every apparatus, we're gonna be every 4 rings of fire, and then that 366 day as a support. Oh, here it is. An apparatus is the maximum unit of creation of meaning, and the minimal is 1 day. There we go. Okay. A day is inside a cycle, but okay, the only way we can observe from the outside is if we are defining ourselves particularly. See, we're always talking about that. We're always talking about the subatomic instance, because if we're not particularly defined, we can't do any of these things. We can't reason any of these things because we can't even differentiate the different scales. So, you know, the particular definition is like really, really important, and the separation and differentiation of every scale. If not, there's not, like, we're gonna have an illusion that we're looking from the outside, but we're not really. Okay. So yeah, like for all those observers that decided to not have a gravitational experience or to not evolve, yeah, they can be entertained by us. For them, that's going to be entertainment. But for us, that's not entertainment. That's not an experiment. That's an experience, and that's our evolutionary process. And we take it quite seriously from down here, right? But it's not going to be the same, the perspective from down here, from a gravitational octave, inhabiting one, than observing it not having a gravitational existence. It's not going to be the same, right? So it doesn't matter. They can have fun with us, whatever, but the ones that we're putting our asses down here, that's us. Our credit down here. Okay. Here there was an error. This is what you wrote. And that is like the opposite. Okay. This is another example of missing context, because if we take this out of context, it's not accurate. But if we say, for a foreign code, synchronized destinations are not the purpose, for a foreign code. But for a solar native code, synchronized destinations are the purpose. For a solar native code, okay? For a foreign code, they're not. For a foreign code, the purpose is a power, manipulation, control. Okay, see who is more powerful, like that game they're playing. But for the solar native code, what it's interested in, the synchronization of the gravitational documents. That is the main difference, the improvement of the quality of its local reality, the improvement of the quality of the entorno, and as a last link, the improvement of the existence, of course. That is like the last link. Everybody wants to have an amazing experience, like perfect experiences, right? But they want those experiences to be given. They're not interested in constructing those experiences from scratch, you know? Codifying those experiences so that later we can have them. So that when I have that experience, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I was part of the construction of that experience. Part of the construction, because I'm not the container, right? I'm not the solar consciousness. I'm a fractal of it, but I can participate in the construction. And it's very different than just expect for some entity to provide me with an amazing experience, right? It's not going to be the same. So synchronized destinations are not the purpose when there is a foreign administration. When there is a solar native code, synchronize are the purpose. Okay? If we're not particularly defined, we're content to the secondary unfoldment. Digital currency. All right. Crossing the barrier, decide to assume it implies to assimilate the challenge. Okay, we already talked about that. I think there's another translation error right here. That's why I highlighted it, okay? It has to be a product of condition. So I think that here we're talking about will instead of condition. Evolution has to be a product of will, not condition. We cannot be conditioned to evolve, okay? This is correct. There has to be a whole frame of infrastructure that guarantees continuous connection with that subatomic aspect, right? Which was interrupted by this foreign code, which was bypassing the solar native code, etc. So we didn't have that access, which is now being returned to us. right? And we are now figuring out that all these things that they sold to us as exceptional were actually the most common things at a subatomic scale, right? They are just common things in the universe, and they sold them to us because they first interrupted our connection to the subatomic scale, and then they sold us the qualities of the subatomic scale as special.
Can you define the they? You know, who's they?
Foreign consciousness,
Mhm.
external influences to the solar native code.
Mhm.
We use the word they, but they're not people.
Right.
Just to, our brains trying to understand these things. Just foreign influences to the solar native code. Interference. Okay, which is not a bad thing because interference helped us create a better code. Helped Sun create a better code in the antimatter, right?
So
It
would
showed
foreign, sorry, would foreign for us be outside of the solar system?
exactly. Cosmic influence. Yes. External to our domestic reality, which would be solar system. Okay, so the subatomic finances the anatomic. So here it says atomic. We're gonna change that to anatomic, right? This is where we fall into the anatomic. We find synchronicity. Another probably translation mistake. The synchronicity comes from the subatomic, not the anatomic, okay? So because the subatomic finances everything, finances the anatomic, when we find these synchronicities, it's just a product of a connection with the subatomic instance. Because past, present, future are just one. They're not, like there is no time, there's no separation. Okay? So that's why we find synchronicity down here, where it's separate. Okay, so when we, so that's wrong. Synchronicity is um uh, 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 in line with the subatomic. Okay. And then the thing with Israel, the creation of meaning, right? At a subatomic scale, it means to think outside the box, right? Because if we are trying to create meaning from the inside, all we're gonna do is take whatever's in here and just recycle it and think that we are creating something new, but not actually doing it because we are just taking whatever is inside here. It's like, and that is what people that don't have a particular connection do. They take reference from the entorno, the context, society, whatever, and they create their meaning from there. They take pre-established meanings and internalize them. That's what Ale means when she says the creation of meaning happens from outside of that, right? Which is where we receive these signals from unprecedented sources, things that have not yet been manifested. New things, actual new things, actual novelties, not things that we think are novelties. Okay. Okay, so whatever they're doing, these people that have that paradigm of war and power, etc., completely childish, right? But then she says there's credit for childish things too. Okay, yes, but there's a limit for that. There's a limit for that. Like if there's an attempt of destruction of the entorno, then there's no credit for that, even if it's childish. There's a limit. Okay, there's gonna be certain. So this is relative. This is not. There's all credit for childish things. No, this is relative. It's gonna depend on the ignorance licenses each person has. Okay. Um. Okay, so this one is where she says, So what they're going to lose is their blockages that they have in their minds to observe opportunities. So they're not actually going to lose, they're going to win. Okay, so we're going to move to Marjolaine's question and then go back to the second part here. Okay, so we talked about content and container, right? When we talk about just as simple as it sounds, content, something that is contained inside a box. Everything, how can I make it? It's because for me, like inside my understanding, it's like I can easily understand, like differentiate when I am in contact with a content or in contact with something that's structural. Do you think, like, if you look inside your mind, Marjolaine, inside your consciousness, do you think you can find that differentiation between content and structure, or no? Yes? Because, for example, I don't know, when I am trying to sleep or whatever, and stuff comes into my mind, just random stuff, I can identify that's just content. The container is more silent. There is not as much noise there, you know? That's something that I use to guide myself. Of course, myself, right? It's gonna be different for everybody, but content is like uh, arguments, like local arguments, social arguments, social situations, things that are like materially happening, things that are pre-established, reactives, past, tradition, all of that is content. But
It's
when we're
look
talking about
like culture things.
Sorry?
Looks like culture things. What we have had in the
Yeah,
memory.
also the culture, also like it's many things, everything that's inside the structure. What is the structure? The calendar,
Yeah.
the solar consciousness, the solar code, Gaia, that's the entorno. Gaia and Tierra, that's the entorno. The structures are what are more objective, technical. They have no margin for symbolic interpretation. See, I know it's hard. I know it's hard to wrap our because our brains for me this is an understanding I have in my mute zone. So trying to put words, it's hard because our brains try to linearize everything, and that like there's danger in that. But everything inside that coexists here with us, that is content. And there's going to be different containers with different logics. So this container has a specific logic that makes everything inside it make sense. It is like it has its references, it has its points of references that are connected to concepts, right? For example, the concept of the concept of a solar calendar, which is an instrument of transference of solar consciousness, that is structural. That is a structural concept. A solar calendar as an instrument of transfer of solar consciousness, that is structural. See? That's not content. You see?
Yes.
Now, Marlene likes potatoes. That's content. Or Marjolaine doesn't like potatoes. Or the contents of my life. That's content. Person I met, content. 972 and the impact of the parabolic antenna in our circuits, that's structural. See? When
Yes.
we start to touch the fabrics of the structures that allow contents to develop themselves. So, see, I mean, of course, the contents, but no. Some contents are not going to be connected to the containers. Most of them aren't. But also the containers are evolving. So that's why our little antennas are resonating with this, which is something Ale said. She said, I'm like an alarm clock. It's an alarm clock. And if I'm itching, then I go and I go scratch myself. But it's my personal responsibility. I am the one that heard the alarm. If others didn't, well, it's not my job to go wake everybody up. I heard the alarm clock, so I have to get up, and I have that responsibility and that appetite to connect with the structures and work on them and feel those and not feel, but like sink into these novelties. Okay, so this is another question that also Jeff had: particular and personal, right? Particular, again, outside the box. Personal, I'm a person. Subatomic, I'm not a person. I'm part of the solar consciousness. I'm a particle in the solar consciousness, which is a collective. But I am a particle inside that collective at a subatomic scale. When I am having a personal development, I'm a person. I'm a human being having an atomic experience. When I'm talking about particular definition, I am not a person. I'm a particle. And whatever evolution I have that is particular, I'm gonna take whether or not I'm a person. But these two things happen in a parallel in the same re-axis, but at different scales. So the personal happens at an anatomic, because that's where I'm a person, where I have an experience, a physicality, and the particular development is going to happen at a subatomic scale. Same re-axis, different scales, parallel to each other. They don't block each other, right? But the thing is that if I am more focused in developing my particularity, which is through the LGC resource, of course, then yeah, probably my personal I'm not going to have that much focus there. And it doesn't mean it's not going to be developed. It probably will be. But if it's the focus, it's the shift of the focus of the observer. See? If I shift my focus and I'm working on my particularity, it's different than if I shift my focus and try to develop myself personally. It's going to be a different kind of development because the development of the particle has to be aligned with the universe itself, the expansion of the universe itself, and the development of the personal, not necessarily. The development of the personal is just it is more local to the entorno, but the particle it's not local. There's a lot of content today. I'm so happy we have so many notes. Okay, let's jump to one of Nienke's. Okay, creation of meaning and creation of content.
One add on this particularity, what I understand that Alejandra says that this particularity is more getting important, that we are more functioning by this particularity instead of the personal. What I understand.
Right now, excuse, I wouldn't like to say that one thing is more important than the other. I wouldn't like to say it like that, but it's gonna depend, like that level of importance, it's gonna depend on each person.
Okay.
You know, I like we cannot generalize and say the particular is more important than the personal. No, because maybe for somebody the personal is more important. You
Yes,
know?
he said not it's more, it's better. She was not saying that, but we are going to use more the particularity. That's what I
I
understood.
mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Because we use them all simultaneously. But
Okay.
maybe what you are meaning is that the requirement of this new era are that we are particularly defined, of course. And if we are not particularly defined, and there's a requirement by the entorno of that, and we're still not appetizing to do that, and we're like, no, 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 I'd rather just do, my personal life, and I don't really
Mhm.
care about my particularity, then yeah. But the thing is that the requirement is of the entorno, but it's a requirement of the entorno, and each person is going to respond to that requirement according to their own ignorance license, scopes, level of construction of concepts, etc. Interpreter, you know. So it's gonna depend, like
Yeah,
each
thank you.
person. Each person is going to relate to that requirement according to their configuration. But the requirement is there.
Clear,
Yeah,
thank you.
is that better? Okay. Okay, so creation of meaning, we've been talking about that. A meaning, like if I am part of the foundation of the new meanings, right? Because Ali has been talking about this for all of 506, which is the solar interference and of the truth. It's not in this case, it's not going to be it's going to be interference. The sun is going to be interfering the interference. you know so you'll be like, hey, 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 okay, my turn, I am ready now. I'm going to take control of the truth now. So this creation of the truth, of course, I think evolves into the creation of meanings. These meanings that have been provided or fed to us by the matrix, fed to us because because most of the content inside that structure, we're not interested in those other scales of develop like particular development. They just wanted that nice experience, right? So they were like, okay, I'll take this like it is like a base code. Jeff asked about stereotypes. Remember, we're not using social definitions. A stereotype is a base code that the matrix provides. I am a particle. I just want an experience. I don't care about anything else. I see that container that provides this range of stereotypes, and I'm like, oh, I'll take that one, and I'll go in there. I go in there, I act on it, I have an experience on it, I feed the container with my experience, and then I just say whether the experience was pretty or ugly, and then I go. Now, if I'm particularly connected, I am connected outside of that container, I'm going to be the creator of the meaning of my own existence. And I'm going to be feeding that to the matrix. So the matrix, I'm not going to be depending on the matrix. The matrix is going to be depending on us because we're going to be creating meaning. And then the matrix is going to provide that meaning to others inhabiting that container that are not particularly connected. So stereotypes are base codes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having trouble digesting that. And I think it's just my understanding of the word, the common understanding of the word stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of
They're
introducing something.
parallel. They're parallel definitions. Remember, social and solar
Yeah,
are
yeah.
parallel. We're talking about a solar definition of a stereotype. And of course, the social definition of stereotype, it's not that they don't, of course, there's a point of connection between the two. There's going to be a point of connection, but we're talking about the root and the recreation of the meaning of the word from the root.
Would a stereotype in this application be a container within the container?
Yeah, that's a good example.
Okay.
Because it would be like there would be several little boxes inside the big container, right? And I'm a particle, I'm like, oh, I would like to experience that. Click. And then I jump into that little box.
That makes sense
Oh.
to me. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that, like I said, it's a base code for particles that are not interested in codifying their own existence themselves. They want somebody else to administrate their existence for them. That's why they have to pray. Because somebody else is administrating their experience. They had a contract before they manifested themselves materially. They had a contract, so now they have to be like, oh, please, 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 let me stay here a little longer. I'll do whatever you want. Sorry for laughing.
It it is humorous at a certain level.
I mean, I shouldn't be laughing because we were all there at some point. But I mean, there is no appetite. The opportunity is here for everybody.
Yes.
It is not like we are the chosen people. No, we're not the chosen people. We are the people that chose the
It's
opportunity.
laughter at the paradigm. It's just right. The kind of like the cosmic consciousness of it all. I find that there's yeah, there's like a humor to that.
Yeah. And of course that something that is not very humorous, that there is not a lot of interest in evolution from all the people that are already here. Like all the ones that are already here, they don't mind. Like they're like, whatever, oh, this, oh, that. That's why I keep saying this is for the new ones, not like the ones that are already here. Most of them are already leaving.
What does that mean?
That's
Yeah.
Denise.
Well, what does that mean, Denise?
That the ones that are already here are already leaving,
Yeah.
because as we move forward in the 500 apparatuses,
Mm.
I am recording, right? Yeah. Am I recording, guys? Yes,
Yes. Yes.
I am. The solar consciousness is trying to achieve a different grade in the universe, right? We have the express universe and we have the civilized express universe. So the sun as a star is trying to achieve a different qualification in the universe. And shifting into that area of civilized express universe, the requirements are different. Like the star needs to have a very robust code, because what is a star is a space of reception of signals, right? Of the universe, all the universe. But the star needs to have a really great ability to codify those signals from the subatomic scale and into every scale, to create a local reality. Now, it is as if the civilized express universe is like the big kids, the like the mature kids, the stars that are more mature and evolved. So Sun wants that, like Sun wants that like that path. Now, in a different era of Sun, when we're talking about these content, we've been talking a lot about content today. Those contents that inhabited the structure, it could be anybody. It didn't matter what kind of content it was, because Sun was still running with the paradigms of the express universe, where there were no regulations, like there were no rules, whatever could go on. As we move forward in the maturity of the solar consciousness, we move into the civilized express universe. Now, the contents inside that structure that is more evolved, the structure of the solar consciousness and codification, that is more evolved. Now the requirement is not just to create content, it is to create meaning, right? So a lot of the people that are here are not interested. They're not interested in that. They're just here for an experience. So as the Solar Native Code administration goes into execution, a lot of these particularities are going to be saying bye. They're going to have to give back their materialization because they're not interested in the evolutionary requirements that the structure is providing now. And the ones that are going to be born later are going to be born conscious of these things.
Well, okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting. Wow.
This is what Ale describes, right? And of course, if we're here, it's because we resonate with that same instruction that Ale is just describing. That's all she does. She describes that signal we all resonate with. That's why everything she says is like, oh, 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 yeah. That's because we inside in our own re-axis, it makes sense.
Mm.
And that's why we cannot transfer this to anybody else because it's in the re of each person.
Mm.
So I know it's hard to wrap our hands around that. Just be like, what do you mean that 99.999% of the population is not interested?
I
You
get
know,
it though.
yeah, to be honest,
I get
it's like you wind up, it feels like a lonely place, at least for now.
It
Yeah.
is very lonely.
Yeah.
It definitely is, yes. But the word loneliness in Spanish is soledad. Sol, edad,
Soledad.
the age of the
Yes,
sun.
only, of course, yes, SOLEDAD, right? So,
Mhm. So our of course our particular definition and evolution is gonna be lonely because it's only ourselves in there. Like there's nobody in there with us.
Wow.
So when we live that evolution, that particular process, and we live that, and we are aware of that in our anatomic life, and we try to connect with others, it just doesn't happen. Like I've tried to make new friends at some points, and I'm just like, oh, like there is just no point of connection anywhere as much as I try, because I consider myself quite an empath, but it's just there's no connection.
Mm. Mm.
that's the
So
building we talked about some time ago, a while ago. So is it like a certain type of boredom when you're in the logic that the things out there that used to entertain don't so much anymore?
mhm. Yes, because that meaning, it is like it begins to become obsolete, right? Because we are receiving other influences and we are working together in this new construction of meaning and these new concepts and these new references that of course we look at those things and they just don't make sense anymore because we're just not. It doesn't mean that we're not connected to the matrix, we are, but not absolutely. Like there's a little antenita like outside of the matrix doing this like ooh, but we're still inside, right? And of course we're still affected by it. It doesn't mean that we're not. It just means that we're gaining consciousness of the fact, right? um so talking about matrix is filled in charts with stereotypes, what we were just talking about. Stereotype is a box within the box that has a certain codification, base codification, for those that are not interested in codifying their other multi dimensions themselves. They're not interested. They're like, I don't know, I'll just let somebody else do that for me. Just give me a nice experience. I don't care what it is. Okay, so I take a stereotype. I act the stereotype, and then, I have a contract for a certain amount of time that I'm gonna be alive, and then I go. Just an experience, that's it. And we're gonna be getting really good in finding these types of consciousnesses in society through their arguments and through the way they understand life. When you ask these people, what is the meaning of life, or what makes you happy, or why are you here? The last person I asked that to, she said, "Oh, I don't know, I'm just an adventurer." Okay, that's very clear if you're an adventurer. That's really clear to me, at least, who you are. It's very clear. That's okay. I'm not angry with her. I know who she is. That's it. But the thing is that when she asks me who I am, I can't say because you're not gonna understand. But you guys do, which is cool. Okay, moving forward. Meaning has to be created from outside the box. 506 is the capacity to create meaning in the container. We talked about that. It will impact directly in the antimatter. Now, this is really cool because, we've been asking ourselves, I know, like me and a lot of us have been asking ourselves, like, what are we doing? Like, what is it that we actually do, right? Construction of concepts, reasoning down here at the bottom of the what did she say? The bottom of the pot, down here, reasoning with the logic of a subatomic particle. That's what we're doing. And we're constructing new concepts from down here. So when we go to sleep, again, we transfer these notions to the subatomic, right? So this in a way feeds on the solar native code. Okay, so we are in a way. Okay, this is a really cool explanation. The subatomic instance is the origin, right? And Earth itself is the destination. We are here, implemented in the third orbital as the destination, and our origin is a subatomic instance, right? That's our origin. We come from there. So when we're there, we're trying to codify, like we're trying to prepare for our trip. We're trying to like include as many setting variables. If we included the entorno in our plan before we projected ourselves in here, if we included the entorno, we're not gonna have such a bad time, let's say, because we prepared as much as we could from the origin. But there's gonna be particles that did not prepare at all, and those are the people that have the worst time down here because they did not prepare at all. Okay, subatomic origin, third orbital is the destination, right? Now that we're down here, there's gonna be setting variables, entorno, variables de entorno, variables that were not contemplated in origin. Okay, because this entorno is foreign to the origin. It's a construction that is foreign to where we are coming from. We tried to prepare, some of us did, but not too much. So now that we're here, the entorno is something that's alive, it's moving, it's upgrading, it is updating. All these variables, we're receiving them, right? We're constructing these concepts. When we go to sleep, we send them back to the origin. So in the origin is like, oh, okay, that's going on down there. Okay, let's include that in our codification. Then we make our codification more robust. And we help the solar codification be more robust. Some at better levels than others. Some like the thing that Ale does, Alejandra nourishes the solar native code at a whole different level, of course. Like Alejandra is a function, right? And we ourselves in our smaller scopes, we're slowly doing that as well, even if it's just a little bit, but we're also learning how to do that. Again, construction of concepts, most important, most important. That's why I think we never get tired of doing this because it's nourishment for our particularities. Because when we go to sleep, we are connecting. There is like a two-way route, coming and going constantly. So yeah, let's go to Jeff's questions. Okay, I think we answered this one, right? Differences between particular and personal. Was that clear or no?
Yes, that's clear. And
Okay,
so is the next one. Yep.
so is the next one, okay? Negative numbers in rows 7 and 9, representations of antimatter. Yes. In addition to space above row 1. In addition, because okay, -1,
Yeah, I didn't have -1, -2 is what I mean by row 1.
okay,
Didn't have language at the time I wrote this. Yep.
okay. So, basically, there is not much more development than this, but we have 7, 8, 9, we have the negative, which is a connection to the antimatter, but over here, it is like we are bringing down the board, okay? So that those negative numbers, yes, that's correct. It's related to the antimatter. Then we have the 8th line, which is it begins with francium, which began the whole revolution. Francium began the whole revolution because 87 needed to be on the 8th lane, right? Because that's where it belongs, because it is our gravitational octave. And the 225, we talked about this in the cycle meeting. It is all of the 224 spaces of the table condensed like all together, right? But it is a previous instance so that it doesn't impact our gravitational octave directly, because that would mean that it would destroy us. Like we wouldn't be able to handle it. So it is like another instance that allows us to receive whatever we need to receive before it impacts our gravitational octave. We have those two. Now in the 9th, we have both of them together. So Ale describes it as the reins of the connection. Of course, this is a possibility for us, okay? Doesn't mean like the fact that we are reasoning it doesn't mean that we know how to do it. The reins of the connection between matter and antimatter, which is what we've been talking about all along. The connection between like the construction, the reasoning that we do over here in destiny and connecting with the origin constantly. Okay, that flow. That's what it would be. So, both things, matter and antimatter from the bottom of the pit. That is like the enabled possibility that we have, right? And another thing, like I said, she hasn't developed it quite too much, but now we are, I think on the second, are we in the second day of, yeah, we are, right? Second day of lab 19?
Third, I think. I
Is it third?
think so.
Oh yeah, third.
Yep.
Yes, third day. So we are right here. We're stepping on this, right?
No, I thought it was from the other direction on -1.
No, it begins over here.
Oh, it does there. Okay.
Yes, this is lab 19, right here. The thing is, yeah, I had that same thing that you have, because since they shifted,
Yeah.
I thought that it was going to begin from the right, but
Okay.
no, lab 19 begins over here. So 19, 20, and then 21 and 22. That's how it goes. And then we have the graph from the 4 rings of fire, right?
Mhm.
So that's basically it. Here's the middle, right here. We have the middle, which is NO and LR. And that's basically it. I have no more to, because it's very new and it's really hard to just wrap our hands around it. Like the two upper levels for me are still very new, so I can't
Mhm.
talk much more about it, except what she just explained in the program, right? So here, the negative numbers. So the negative number is the one that is in relation to the antimatter,
Antimatter,
not the
yes.
positive. Okay?
Yes,
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, so the word symbolic, the notion of symbolic. This is like, we can keep it quite, oh wait, I can't find you. Oh, here. If we keep it as simple as possible, when we're talking about something that's symbolic, it's something that doesn't have metrics. Okay? I can say, I just had a green tea this morning. This is an example that I used exactly in the program. I had a green tea and I didn't like it because it was too bitter. That's a symbolic interpretation. There is no technical reference to my valuing of the tea.
Mhm.
So I am valuing the tea based on my opinions, and they are based on nothing. Like there are no references. Um, Now, the last link of the chain always has a symbolic license. And Ale says, if we didn't have that, like if we lost that, then life would lose its charm. There's like a license for the music and the art and it's part of the licenses for the contents. The problem here is that we have been trying to apply the same symbolic license to the whole universe, which is not symbolic. The universe is not symbolic. It's highly technical and algorithmical. So, no, the thing is that since we don't have the logic of other levels of other dimensions, then we want to copy and paste the one we have down here, the gravitational logic that we know or that has been fed to us, and paste it in my observation of a vast and infinite universe and say that I am the universe and that the universe provides me with, all, I don't even know what they're saying, but all of that narrative, right? That is symbolic is lacking of objective and technical references. So for me now at this point, it is very easy for me to identify a symbolic interpretation. Like it's very hard to find someone out there that has a technical out view on life. Like even if it's in their own level, it doesn't have to involve LGC concepts, but just at least an attempt to not be symbolic, at least an attempt to find the hard objectivity on life. And I've lost a lot of acquaintances, friends. I tried to keep them. I just couldn't anymore because it was just too much. The cosmovision was completely opposite, and I just couldn't sustain. Like I can't finance it. There is this narrative about a divine origin, and they're telling it to me. I can't sustain it. I can't be quiet, so I have to remove myself from there. To respect it, I have to remove myself from there. So yeah, like the more we refine our concepts, like the better we're gonna get at identifying these subtle differences. It's like there is no
Ambiguity.
ambiguity. There is no ambiguity when we're talking about strict, like hard and strict space-temporal notions. It's very precise. It's like surgically precise. So if you hear somebody make an ambiguous interpretation in relation to space-temporal notions, it's wrong because there's no ambiguity. If that is going on, then there is an over like when you pass your credit card and it doesn't have any funds,
Oh, yeah, overdrawn or.
overdrawn. There is an overdrawn of my scope because if I don't have metrics, if I don't have the receipts, then
Mhm.
I'm overdrawing my scope. I'm making a symbolic interpretation of something that I cannot reach. So it's really important to value my own reach, respect it, and work in there. It's the best thing I can do. So really careful with the ambiguous interpretations. If I don't have receipts, then it is I am opening up myself for the interference, and I'm going to be continuously manipulated.
Having a inner laugh. It's just, I'm choosing to live a 52-minute hour.
Exactly. Yeah, just because I want
I
to.
decided.
I decided. It's like the people that I don't want to touch any mean buttons, but like the people that decide that they're women. Like, I want to be I want to be a woman, so I am. And I like even if it's a man, full-grown man, and he identifies as a woman, he can be a woman. That is a very disruptive thing.
Distorted. Yeah.
Distorted, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can end it here, you guys. I think that was a lot. I have a lot more notes, but I read them all, and I thought we covered a lot of it. I think we did. We didn't go step by step, but I think we did cover a lot of it. So how do you guys feel? That was a lot, huh?
Wow.
It was a lot, but thank you very much, Denise.
Yes,
you.
it was a lot, but it was great.
Great.
Just
Thank
if you
you.
don't mind, if
Yeah.
enough for today is fine. Just that pin with the 6th and the 7th and the wasn't.
Oh, let's do that.
But if
Yeah.
it's too full for today, that's okay.
What do you guys think? You wanna go there? I would like to.
I'm good, but want to be respectful of everyone.
Okay. Let's just look at it. Let's just look at it because it's really important. Okay, so 1 second. I want to see you. It's because when I open the screen, then I don't see you. Okay, here. So everybody knows what 3760 is, right? Yes or no? 3760? No?
No, no.
Okay. Okay. So the Hebrew calendar, the Jewish calendar, they are on year 5784. Okay. We are on year 2024. The difference between those 2 years, 3760. Okay. So Ale, when she found this out, she began connecting. Okay, why? Why? Because this is a source of interference, right? So when Ale detected this, she began to nativize it. Nativize the foreign code into the solar native code. That's what that is. Okay. So using that same vulnerability to create a new connectivity inside the solar native code. Okay. So when Ale discovered this difference, 3760 years that the Hebrews use a different calendar, and the description of Alejandra of this was that they used it to control the actual year. Okay, so the year 5784, they're using that frequency to control 2024. Okay. Okay, so then she started functionalizing other dates and can like finding the like for example my native year 1991. If I add 3760 years to that, I'm gonna find a year that the external influence uses to control 1991. Does that make sense? I know it's very technical, but that like whatever year, if you add 3760, you're gonna find the frequency that they use to control that other year in the past. So the year 5784 is an instance that they use to control 2024. Okay, that is like what we need to understand. If we don't understand that, then we cannot go further into this.
Well, when you say control, you know,
Mhm.
like, what do we mean in this definition?
Because they're particularly defined. The
Okay,
foreign influence is particularly defined, and we're not.
and is it specific? So this is the part, is this the part where it's particularly defined in 972?
They use that parameter.
You use it. Okay,
It's a parameter they use to do it.
okay. And the they is once again the foreign code.
Foreign influences.
Foreign codes.
Foreign
Okay,
influences.
yeah.
Okay. That are particularly defined, and us as fractals of the solar consciousness, not particularly defined, and the
Mhm.
solar code needs maintenance,
Mhm.
uses these vulnerabilities to control. The solar native code use its credit and install their code because they
Mhm.
don't have credit anymore. They lost their connection to the primary unfoldment. So they're looking for sources of credit to install their code because they have broken their native stars.
So that's the importance of defining ourselves as, it's one importance at least of defining ourselves as particulars,
Exactly, because the solar code needs maintenance
right? And
from,
also it leaves us open to the
from the
distortion.
third orbit.
Yeah. So then how does the number work here where it's a 6 rather than a 7, or how does, or the math, or however that works?
Okay, remember first that if that influence is particularly defined and at a subatomic scale, there is no past, present, and future, it doesn't matter what year it is. It has access to any point in time because it can manage the subatomic field, right? And it has been managing the subatomic field of the sun because the sun has been working on its subatomic codification, right? Okay, so that year, 5784, is the controller of 2024 from that foreign code at a
Mhm.
subatomic level. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So what Ale did, this is a I'm really happy to explain it, okay? So if anybody's tired, feel free to go. This will be recorded, but I'm really happy to explain it because it helps me also to reorganize it, okay? So 3760 put into a year. Now we are looking at LGC calendar. This is the LGC calendar, right? What Alejandra did, she projected the LGC calendar all the way to year 5784. Okay, that was a PDF of 16 pages of LGC calendar.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay, okay. I can't show you because,
I remember the
regulations from the 7011 group, but I can tell you. Okay, so this, it is like a chunk of those 18 or 16 PDF the pages, 16 or 18 PDF paper that she sent from year 2012 to year 5784 in the LGC calendar. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, in all of those pages, she observed year 3760. Year 3760, okay? Not the difference, not the constant, but the year. Okay. Now,
That would, from our perspective, that would be the future, right?
yes. Yes. Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's a year, but she didn't go, of course, that was like the point of reference that led her to find this, what we're gonna see right now. What we're looking at right now is 3762, the year, which is the application in the functions of 3760. Okay, application in the function. And then we have 3763. What do we have there? In between those two, we have 23, the antenna. Okay. We have 20, we have 2, and we have 3.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Now, the interesting thing here is the value, because this is placed, the LGC calendar that we're looking at right now, we know that the middle column changes every day. And this column doesn't change. It is a constant every year has. Remember that. 2012, 2013, 2014, every year has a constant and that doesn't change. The middle column changes every day, okay? Which is the main purpose of the LGC calendar is the increment of our conceptual base. Conceptual base 1096, okay? I don't know if you guys remember that. I know LGC calendar is complicated, but the base of the LGC calendar is 1096. Just know that, okay? If you want to know why, we can talk about that. But the base of the LGC calendar is 1096. And the fact that every day the middle column increments one day every day, right? There is a feeding into the conceptual base. But what we're doing here, we're looking at the code at a subatomic level, okay? Because at a subatomic level, there is no time. We are trying to nativize the foreign code. We're trying to find the bugs and the vulnerabilities in the solar code through which external influences bypassed and inserted themselves, okay? So we have that 2 and that 3, which is equal to our antenna. Okay. Now, the interesting thing that I thought was amazing, the middle column, this is placed on the day, the 31st of December of year 5784. This is what we're looking at. 31st of December of year 5784. This is the value of this year in this column. I know.
I'm sorry, that's the value on, sorry, the 30th or the 31st?
31st.
31st, okay. Yep.
This, okay, because here we're
Yeah.
talking about then the next thing we're going to explain.
Okay.
But here we're placed on the 31st, okay?
Mhm.
Okay, so the value, we're going to look at the value of the B column and the constant, okay? What are we looking at here? We have 738886. How did Ale reason all of this? Remember solar day 738888 event horizon, 1st of January of this year? That was a solar day 738888. Remember that?
Yep,
Well,
2 days earlier.
surprisingly, Alejandra found that solar day right here. Except instead of having another 8, there's a 6. Okay? And then we have that same thing on the constant, right? Okay. So, because we know that the solar day of the 1st of January 2024 is solar day 738888, then we know that the 30th of December of 2023 is solar day 738886.
Mhm.
Okay. So here we have it.
Yep.
The date and the solar day. Except here we have it in the constant. Okay. Now, the 31st of December of 2023, we have 738887. In the constant, okay, in the constant we have that solar day, but looked at from the right. That means, right, imperceivable. So if that comes, if that influence comes through there from the right, and we have a 6 on the left, it's gonna go, it is based in the memories, not on the consciousness.
Mhm.
But if we have a 7 on the left, then it means that's why Ale says this is an instruction. It is an instruction for the activation of a consciousness at a subatomic scale that receives this instruction. Because if we don't have that, then it's going to go in the memory. There's going to be no consciousness. So if there's a 6 there, it's like we fall into the trap of the interference. If there's a 7 there, then there's an active consciousness that is able to modulate this influence. Okay, so 738886 responds to the solar day of the 30th of December of 2023. Okay, and 638887 goes like points towards solar day 738887, which is the 31st of December of 2023, right? One day prior to the event horizon.
Mhm.
So the constant de la constante del día, hold on one second. Okay, so the constant to this year has a support in the solar day, in the last day of 2023. Okay, this constant of this year, the support of that is it's supported on the last day of 2023. What is 2023? The recreation of the antenna. So, did we recreate our antenna or not? Did we activate that consciousness or not? Because if we didn't recreate our antenna, then we are in the hands of the we are not able to have an observer outside of the box. So that support depends on the consciousness of the container that allows us this gravitational experience, that support. Because 77 is containing 3888. 3888 is a very structural frequency. It's 3 closed circuits in 3 different instances that need to function independently, contained by the consciousness of the container. I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of us just have to take your word for it at this point, but
Yeah. Me too. I
together. Yeah.
like all we can do at this point is just reason how we got to where. Okay? And then this is a description of the codification. To me, it makes sense because of course I know it's really like all the things that get lost in the translation. And it like here I have my own process of reasoning and then trying to transfer it to you guys. I know that there can be a lot there, but I'm sure that like up to here is good enough. We can take that, like just try to process it a little bit, and we can like in the next meeting we can try and go and look at it again, and I can assure you that we're going to have more understanding.
I guess just one thing in there was that 6 versus that 7, was that a basically like a cheating, is something off in the math?
It is like using um because this has to do with the solar code, right? The solar code and the solar native code are different.
Mhm.
A solar code is something that can be implemented here and not necessarily be connected to the entorno, right? That's a solar code, it's being executed. So the solar code has a specific sequence. And since there is no the particular definition wasn't very good, like the solar codification at a subatomic level wasn't very good, then these external influences use that solar code, like kind of like studied the solar code and be like, oh, we can enter through here. We can use this vulnerability in the code to do this.
So it saw the vulnerability on December 30th, 2023, before the solar native code download on December 31st, 2023.
Okay, again?
So the foreign influence saw an opportunity on December 30th, 2023.
Oh, no. You're looking from an anatomic. Look at from the subatomic.
I was going to say, right, because time, right, there's no time in the subatomic.
We're looking at a subatomic, from the subatomic perspective at this. So remember, there's no time there.
Yes.
There's only code.
So what's the distinction between the 6 and the 7? Like, it seems like there's something that is meant to natural to the solar native code versus the foreign. So I guess in a narrative, right, symbolic, right, what happened?
Okay. When we talk about 6, we're talking about memories. And she
Yes.
said she put it in green because it's in relation to the SE quadrant, the context, which is where all the memories of everybody are. Everybody and everything. The entorno saves everything literally. So if we receive this instruction based on the memories, these memories that are externally managed, instead of receiving this instruction with an active consciousness at a subatomic level, because if we have an active consciousness at a subatomic level, even if it's just awakening, even if we're just barely reasoning all of this, then it disables that door, because at a subatomic level, every date is a portal. So these portals were being used. Every date is a portal at a subatomic level that is active. For us, this is the date that is present, but at a subatomic level, every date is a portal that is active. So it is a portal that was being used for a specific purpose by the external influence. Once this is detected by Alejandra, that vulnerability is disabled. Yeah, and now here we're just trying to understand how that happened, trying to reason it.
Right.
But when we're talking about the 6, we're talking about something that is in relation to the container, it's inside the container. 7, no. 7 is different. 7 is outside. 7, 8, 9.
Mm-hmm.
Subatomic.
Right, but was something missed, or it's just, or this is the way it's been, but we had the event horizon and
This
it
is
was
the way it's been. This is the way it's been.
right.
It's a portal that has been used.
Right.
Because that is from the subatomic level, past, present, future doesn't exist. So even if we are here, there, in the past and the present, it's active.
But the event horizon, right, because of the 3 and the 3 8s, was a unique opportunity from our perspective of time, right? So
To recreate our antenna.
to recreate our antenna. Okay.
Recreate our antenna. Now, did we do that or not? We don't, like, each one will know.
Particular. Yep. Okay. All right. I got the flavor. We'll
Wow,
read.
that was
Well,
good. Thank you. Yeah, that was really great. Really, really great. I know it wasn't as clear as we like it, but
good
we can,
start.
yeah, it's a start. We can process it, chew on it a little bit, and then next we're gonna open up our next meeting talking a little bit about that and see if things just kind of found their place. Okay?
Mhm.
So I know I didn't go through all of the questions, but I think we covered quite a good percentage of it. So thank you so much, you guys. I honestly, I am very, I admire you, all of you, so much, because even though with the limitations and the obstacles with the language, you guys, your resonance, oh my God, like it's amazing. It is so impressive. I don't know how you guys do it, but like the resonance is so clear and so evident. So I'm just amazed that you guys are here. So thank you. And yeah, we'll be seeing each other soon. The new red program is out, so I will try to do it as soon as possible. Um, Organize all of this I just went through because that last part was intense. But yeah, I'll be seeing you. Oh, and I'll be seeing you in the cycle meeting too.
Yes.
All right, you
Hey,
guys.
thank you,
Good to
Denise.
see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Bye
much.
all.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Thank you.